Once again, good morning, everyone. We are now good to begin. First of all, thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday morning. I know there are better things to do on a Sunday morning, so I sincerely do appreciate your time and interest in taking out, an hour from your busy Sunday morning. So thank you so much. For the folks who have joined in late, I'll just do a brief introduction of myself once again. My name is Hari. I'm the Associate Director at Great Lakes Institute of Management, and I'm also the Admissions Director and the Program Head for the Postgraduate Program in Business Analytics. Few of you may have spoken to me in the past few months, but this is just for the interest of everyone at large. So today's webinar session is an information session on the program, and I intend to keep this very brief and to the point so that it can benefit you the most. And over the years, we have seen that there are a series of questions that our students commonly ask. So that is what this webinar is going to be around. So I'm not going to bore you with very pedantic or academic slides, but the entire format is organized in a question and answer format. And I'm sure once I go through the questions, I am hopeful that many of your questions would also be answered within this. Before I begin, let me also introduce my colleague from the admissions team, Mr. Ravi Singh. He again could have spoken to some of you, and he would be helping me in this webinar, which means he would also be taking some of your questions. In terms of agenda, there are broadly three main points to the agenda. The first is understanding the program so that you know what exactly are you signing up for. Second is basically answering some of the commonly asked questions. So this is where there are a few slides that I have that have been collected on the basis of our experience with candidates over the years in terms of the questions that they ask. So we have answers for that. And the third part is in the sense of how should you be preparing for the program even before the program begins. All right. So that's how we're going to do this. Right. And if this works for everyone, let's begin. One thing for people who are not familiar with the GoToWebinar control panel, let me just quickly give a brief of that as well. So as I go through the slides, there will be points where I should pause and I'll take questions from all of you. So there will be throughout the presentation there will be these intermittent pauses. So at those points in time, feel free to type in your questions. You can see a questions tab there. So just feel free to type in your question. I shall see it, and as far as possible I will take the questions and I will try and answer all the questions that come my way. The other bit is uh, at any point in time, if you are not able to hear me, again please raise a prompt for that. You can again do that by typing into the questions tab itself, and I shall get someone from my team to look into it. So with those basic instructions, let us begin today's session. So the first is, of course, the introductory slide on Great Lakes PGP-BA program, and I'm sure that many of you are already aware of the program, considering that you have applied, and some of you have even received offers from the program and have accepted, and have enrolled into the program. But just to kind of run it down, the Great Lakes PGP-BA program, postgraduate program in business analytics, that is a 11-month executive management program. So essentially, it is designed purely for working professionals, so that you don't have to quit your jobs to pursue the program. This is the program is also very uniquely positioned in the sense that this is the only program that is designed to help you skill for business roles or techno-commercial roles in analytics. So right at the outset, let me make one thing clear: we are not trying to build statisticians, we are not trying to build technical architects and software programmers in analytics, but rather we are trying to build techno-commercial professionals and business professionals in analytics. And this, of course, will get clearer as I go to my next slide, where I explain in terms of what does this mean and what does this role entail. The format, because again it is for working professionals, is designed in such a way that it causes minimum disruption to your work. So hence it's a classroom and online blended format. So that there are through the duration of the program, there are certain classroom sessions that you need to attend, the schedule of which is published well in advance. And rest of the time these happen, the learning also happens online. In the online environment, There are recorded sessions and there are also live webinars, just like a webinar that we're doing right now. So learning happens through both these formats. And throughout the course of the program, you will see that different portions are dealt in different manners. We are honored and privileged actually to be endorsed by some of the leading analytics companies for our effort in analytics. And This is also something that you will see in terms of as we go along. And in terms of some credentials, of course, Great Lakes is a name that is well known, and I'm sure most of you have heard about us. And as far as the PGP-BA program goes, we are really glad again to be ranked within the top three business analytics programs in India. And when you consider the fact that it also happens to be the youngest business analytics program in that top three league, that gives us a lot of confidence in terms of the things that we're doing right. So where do we stand as of now? We are currently enrolling for our sixth and seventh batch that shall commence in June and July of 2015. Uh, our typical batch sizes in Chennai is around 60 students and Gurgaon is around 50 students. You can always take a plus minus 10% depending upon the kind of applications we get and the kind of filters that the program director enforces in terms of admission. Right now, we are done with our first cycle of admissions that concluded on the 14th of April, and now we are in the process of our second cycle of admissions. As of now, we have about 65% of the class enrolled, and the remaining shall get filled in the second cycle. All right, so let us get to the commonly asked questions. That was a brief primer on the program. I can already see that there are a few questions that have come my way. I would just ask Nitya and Dvaipan to park their questions. I'll definitely come back to those questions in a while. But first, let me cover some ground. Thank you. All right, so the first question is who should pursue this course, right? And This is a question that almost everyone has. And the answer is quite simple, actually. Uh, we want candidates to pursue this course only and only if they want to transition their career to business or techno commercial roles in analytics. Right. So there are two things here. First of all, you should have a genuine interest to build a career in analytics. You should know about analytics. You should know what it entails, what are the skill sets that are required, and so on and so forth. And you should be passionate about it to build a career in it. That's point number one. Point number two is that within analytics itself, you need to understand that there are broadly two lines of careers that can be built. One is a technical line of career, which one is a technical line of career which actually focuses more on the programming side and the technical architecture side, whereas the other is a business or a techno commercial line of career. So this program uniquely is positioned and is designed in collaboration with the industry to fulfill the gap that is there in the industry for business roles and techno commercial roles in analytics. So typically, if let's say if you're going to begin your career, a techno commercial slash business role in analytics is of a business analyst, right? And what does a business analyst do? For those who are not aware of this terminology in the context of analytics, like I'm sure that many of you come from software services or technology background, so there, of course, business analyst is very prevalent. Uh, but in analytics, it's slightly different, and let me explain that to you. So, a business analyst role in analytics would entail essentially working with a client to understand their problem and working with the implementation team and the technology team on the other hand to kind of implement a solution for their problem, right? Now here, if I am to draw a parallel with IT services, if that is a comfortable area in terms of understanding, typically what does happen in IT services is that your client will tell you that all right, this is a business requirement in terms of a module that needs to be developed or an application that needs to be developed, right? And from there on, the technology slash consulting companies will take over and convert those requirements into specifications and program design and so on and so forth, right? In analytics, things are a little vaguer than that. So let's say if Walmart is your client, and they are not really going to come always and tell you in terms of, all right, this is the problem. More often than not, and increasingly more, and it may come as a surprise to you, What happens is that companies will approach analytics consultants or analytics organizations with the fact that, listen, I'm sitting on this humongous amount of data, right? And you tell me what can I do with it? The world over, everyone's going gaga over analytics and the kind of business results that it can derive or it can actually affect, right? You tell me in terms of what can I do with my data. So that is as open-ended as an analytics requirement can ever get, right? In other cases, things could be a little more pointed, where again, if I take the same example of retail analytics, companies can come back and tell you that, all right, I have so much of sales data with me. I want to know what kind of offers should I be running for, let's say, an upcoming festival season, may that be Deepavali or Christmas or New Year or Halloween or Thanksgiving, whatever that be, right? Depending upon my previous sales data, you got to tell me in terms of what are the different options that will come out on the basis of data, and what does that really mean to business, right, in terms of revenues. Another example that all of us will probably very easily connect to is telecom and telecom analytics, which is a huge field. So there, again, an operator like Airtel or Idea or Vodafone could be solving an analytics problem, which is basically that they want to kind of experiment a set of new pricing plans. But before they do that, before they implement those pricing plans, they want to see, or they want to know in terms of what is the impact that is likely to happen by doing this. So in terms of, will there be churn in their customers? Will the customers start consuming their services less, thereby the revenue will fall? So those are the different scenarios that need to be built, and all of this needs to be built on data, right? So that is where analytics comes in, right? So what all of us need to understand is that when you look at analytics, don't look at analytics in isolation, right? Analytics ultimately means only as much as the interest that it can serve for a business, right? Analytics today is used to serve or to affect a business decision, right? So that is why I said that there are two broad roles. One is the technology role, and one is the business or techno-commercial role, right? And in business or techno-commercial roles, the competence that you need to build broadly fall into three categories. One is that you should understand, or you should have a good understanding of domain, that is the business context in which these decisions are to be applied. The other is that you should definitely understand and know analytics, so that you can actually make sense to the client and to your organization in terms of what is the solution that is being worked out, right? And the third bit is where you should have a good understanding of what is happening in the industry, so that you are always a step ahead of the curve and you're actually implementing best in class decisions and solutions. So broadly, these are the three buckets that you should be kind of ticking if you want to build a career in business roles or in leadership roles or in techno commercial roles in analytics, right? And that is the focus of the program. That is precisely what the program is designed for, as you shall see when we go to the curriculum part of it. At this point in time, there are also a lot of myths that candidates carry with themselves, which I would like to dispel. One of the first myth is that analytics is all technical. Analytics is all technology, right? And here, when I say technical, let me also kind of expand the broad horizon of the word technical. So people also think that analytics is all statistical and so on and so, or mathematical or quantitative and so on and so forth, right? Obviously, there is no denying to the fact that analytics is derived from statistics, and analytics uses a lot of technology. But what you have to realize, and the sooner you do that, the better it is that analytics is ultimately an input to business decisions, right? So it is not, I mean, you can build the most fanciest of statistical models or the most complex of big data technologies around a solution, right? But ultimately, if it means nothing for business, right, that analytics is honestly worth nothing at that point in time, right? So analytics has to be seen in a business context, because that is where the maximum value gets derived, and that is the talent that the market is ready to put a premium on. The next bit is that you have to be an engineer or statistician to do well in analytics. Again, it's a common myth, right? So obviously here the basic assumption is that by being an engineer or a statistician, you're going to be inherently good at quantitative abilities or statistics and thereby be good at analytics, right? While being inherently good at statistics or quantitative abilities is is a good factor, is a hygiene factor for analytics, right? But I don't think you have to be a statistician or an engineer to become well or to do well in the area of analytics. In fact, there is a lot of evidence even within our program where some of our top performers, that is batch toppers across the years, have actually been from non-quantitative fields, right? That doesn't go to say that they did not have a quantitative bent of mind. Obviously, to do analytics, you need to have a quantitative bent of mind, but you don't need to have pursued an education in statistics or engineering or any of the quantitative fields to have that bent of mind, right? So as long as you have that quantitative bent of mind, as long as you're curious about solving problems, as long as you're not intimidated by numbers, right, and you're open to learning new things, you can and you will probably do well in analytics, provided you put in the time and effort that is required. So don't be under the impression that if you are a commerce graduate or a science graduate or a non-quantitative based or you had a non-quantitative based education, analytics is not an area for you. That is completely wrong. As I said, we've had several batch toppers who have done fabulously well in the program, in spite of the fact that they are not from these education backgrounds. Similar another place that you can also validate this is just go to any of the top analytics organizations in India and look at their top leadership, and you will be amazed to see that how many of their top leaders are actually people who are coming from a business background or from a generalist background and not really from a quantitative background. The third bit is that analytics is all about tools. This is where I see the biggest disconnect in terms of candidates who want to build a career in analytics. People think that okay, if I learn SAS, I am ready to let's say build a career in analytics, or if I learn R, or if I learn Hadoop, or any one of those. Um, Again, it is important to step back and kind of understand what's happening here. Tools is a means, it is not the end in itself, right? Tools is a way of implementing a solution, but before that you need to design the solution. Before that, before even designing the solution, you need to understand the problem, you need to frame an answer. There are so many steps that go into converting an unstructured data problem into an actionable business insight, and that is what analytics does. Analytics looks at an unstructured data problem, at humongous amounts of data, and tries to impact a business decision, an actionable business decision out of it. And in this whole scheme of things, in this whole value chain, tools is a very small part of the way of what you will use to implement, right? I'm don't get me wrong, in no means am I trying to say that you don't need to know tools. Of course you need to know tools. It is like saying that you're a manager or you're a management professional today, but you don't know how to use Excel, right? But just because you are very good at Excel, does that mean that you will actually become a good manager, right? So that is the contradiction that you're trying to build here. So tools are important, right? Because tools are important to implement. So any analytics professional, whether that person is pursuing a business line or a technical line in analytics, needs to understand tools, needs to be comfortable with tools. But your learning has to go way beyond tools, right? If you are to build a career in analytics. Uh, and so that is a disconnect that I see with a lot of candidates, and that's why I thought let me bring that in, right? So tools are a small part, right? And in fact, learning tools, let me also be very honest and frank with all of you, that learning tools is by far the easiest thing to do. To learn R or to learn SAS, you don't need to pursue a program an exhaustive program like Great Lakes or any other top institutions program, because you can learn these things for free online. There are enough and more guided learning paths and enough and more free resources that are available, which will really teach you or make you comfortable with these tools, right? So don't get your expectations in the bracket of what tool or how many tool, or how well am I going to get in the tool, because you also need to understand that tool is something that is very transient, right? 5 years back in analytics there was only SAS, right? Today R is eating away at its market share. and there's R is a new tool that has come into the market. Who knows, 2 or 3 years down the line, there may be another tool that will come into the market. So if you start building your competencies and restricting it only to tools, you're actually kind of shorting your own future, because you will again, time and again, you will start hitting a ceiling, and you'll have to keep going through getting trained on more and more tools. Just like I've been trying to explain in terms of who should pursue the program, there's also the part in terms of who should not pursue this program, right? And there are a few caveats here. So you should not be pursuing this program if you think that you're in for an easy ride, because that is definitely not what the program is. This program is designed to be rigorous and exhaustive, and that is the only way that we have been able to maintain our quality, whether it be within the industry community or the student fraternity, and we are not going to compromise on that. So it is designed and delivered to be rigorous and exhaustive, and you have to keep up pace with it. The other bit is that the entire program is evaluation centric, which means it is not as if you get into the program and you are destined to graduate from the program. That is not the way it happens. The program runs into multiple courses, and every course will get evaluated, and all evaluations are application oriented evaluations. So it is not as if you will be writing meaningless dissertations, or kind of filling in theoretical papers or fill in the blanks or things like that. That's not the way it happens. Every evaluation is application oriented, which basically gets to test you in terms of your understanding of what you have learned in that course. The third bit is you should pursue this program, uh, a, of course, only and only if you are interested in analytics, and b, within analytics you are interested to transition to business slash techno commercial roles. So if your focus is to be a statistician, or if your focus is to be a programmer or a technical architect or any of those technology roles in analytics, then you should not be focusing on this, but you should be focusing on some program that is much more on the technical front, and that builds capabilities on technologies and not on business analytics. Right. So before I progress to the next slide, I can see that there are a few questions that have come my way. Let me, in fact, there are more than few. So let me quickly try and answer some of them. Nitya, you have asked that, will this course benefit a beginner in analytics, and what are the job prospects? So I am coming to that question, Nitya. Of course, career support and career development is one of the common questions, and I'll cover that in detail. Dwaipayan, you have asked in terms of the other two programs. I'm assuming you're asking the top three programs. See, the top three programs in business analytics that are ranked include IIM Bangalore, ISB, and Great Lakes. Uh, Jai Raman, there's a question from you in terms of, with 60 students, can faculty give attention to candidates? You can be more than rest assured about that, Jai Raman. There's not just one faculty, but there's also an entire program office that's dedicated to the business analytics program. And there's a lot of analytics that we ourselves run at our end to know how students are progressing, and, and to basically map out the learning experience of every single student in the program. Sudhir, you asked if this webinar is recorded. Yes, Sudhir, this webinar is recorded, and it will be shared with all the participants. There are again, Raju Gopalan, there's a question from you in terms of the career prospects in analytics. I'll park that question for now and come back to it at a later slide, which is dedicated for that. Tushar, I think I've already answered your question. Chandrasekhar, your question again is on careers analytics, so I would ask you also to park that question, and I'll come back to it in one of the later slides. Shelly, your question also seems to be in the same. Jayaraman, you asked a question in terms of are programming skills mandatory for pursuing PGPBA program? That's a good question. Let me answer that right away. No, it is not mandatory, because of course the biggest set of professionals in the PGPBA program come from a technology background. Close to 45% of our candidates would be from technology, but the remaining 55 are not. And that is why we begin even teaching in SAS and teaching in R from the very basics. So it is not mandated, or it is not required that you have prior programming knowledge. But of course, you'll have to be open to learning it in the program. All right. So with that, let me kind of move ahead, and I can see that there are a lot of questions that are around careers and analytics. So don't worry, that is something that will be dealt in great detail in one of my forthcoming slides. Great. So let's go to the next question, which is in terms of how is this course different. And I can see that some of you have basically pointed to questions like this. Now, how is the Great Lakes PGP-BA program different? Is basically a mother of many questions, and to answer that, I have basically broken that down into six aspects. And I would request all of you to be patient with me while I walk through the six aspects, because I'm sure by the time I would have done this, many of your questions would have been answered. Right. So the first aspect that defines and differentiates the PGPBA program is the learning objective. So the learning objective that we have set for the Great Lakes PGPBA program is that by doing this program, you should be able to equip yourself with skills relevant to business roles in analytics. Right. If I have to summarize your learning journey, your learning experience in the PGPBA program in one single line, that is, by the time you finish the program, what is that skill set or what is that competence that you should have built? It would go something like this: that you should have the capability and the competence and the requisite knowledge and skills to look at unstructured data problems and convert them into actionable business insights. As you would appreciate, this is a huge black box in between. On one end you have unstructured data, and on the other hand you have data-driven business decisions and insights. Right? What lies in that black box is a series of steps. Which will begin from framing of the problem to the methodology to identifying of variables to framing of assumptions to knowing what techniques will work, what predictive modeling techniques or what descriptive analytics techniques are going to work in this. Then building the tool or the architecture to implement those solutions, and finally, you know basis on what you have implemented, putting that back into business context, right, and making sense of what you are seeing there, right. So eliminating inferences that are not business ready or that are not business relevant, and finally filtering out inferences that are applicable to business. So it goes through a series of steps, and those are the steps that you will be trained and you have to gain as a part of the program, right. So the learning objective, just to reiterate, is to basically skill yourself with the relevant competencies and skill sets that you would need for business slash managerial slash leadership slash techno-commercial roles in analytics. And the way we do that, is that we have broadly broken the curriculum into three, broad chunks. The first chunk is business foundation, which is where we lay the foundation for business context, right? So I'm sure that some of you would already have done your PG program, your postgraduate program, whether it be a master's in business or in other disciplines, right? And some of the times, candidates do ask us in terms of, listen, I've already done an MBA program. Isn't this going to be redundant for me? Learning again about the basics of marketing or the basics of CRM or the basics of risk and so on. Well, the answer is no, because here in this module, the context that gets built is a context that gets built with respect to analytics, right? So we are not trying to make you a marketing and branding professional by teaching you marketing, or we are not trying to make you a professional in corporate finance by teaching you all the subjects in finance, right? But what we are trying to do is that we are trying to build a context of understanding how analytics affects these business decisions, or how does analytics work in these business contexts. Let me put that in an example. Let's say you were trying, or you were part of a team that is implementing CRM analytics solutions. Let's say you're part of a team that is trying to basically improve loyalty, and that is a very common analytics project, by the way, right now. So if I have to if I have to put it in the context of e-commerce, something that we all are very familiar with, and e-commerce companies are plagued by very high customer acquisition costs, as you would know, right? And the only thing that can drive them to profitability is that once if they acquire a customer, how do they ensure that the customer keeps coming back again and again to shop from them and not from their competition? So basically, the question is, how can analytics help in customer retention, right? That is the problem that you're trying to solve. How will analytics help in loyalty, in customer loyalty or customer retention? Now, while some of you may think that it is as easy as giving more discounts, it is not. And there is enough scientific evidence world over to prove that loyalty or retention is not merely built by incentives and discounts. So there's a lot more science to it, and this problem is being cracked by the leading e-commerce companies with the help of business analytics. So let's say if you are working in a business analytics team of one of these e-commerce companies trying to solve this problem, right? Unless and until you understand the customer behavior process, right, for the e-commerce side, it you whatever solution or whatever suggestion you come out with by implementing your analytics solution is going to be incomplete and probably will never hit the sweet spot, with the management, right? So that is why it is very important to understand the business context in which analytics gets applied, because ultimately that is where the value is, right? So hence, the business foundation is a module that is dedicated to understanding this concept or this context, right? So it is not as if you join the program and the very first day we are going to push you into predictive modeling techniques and we're going to say, all right, let's start by learning regression. That is not the way we go about this learning experience that we've crafted for our candidates. We begin with understanding the business context. And even for candidates who have done their masters and have done their PG programs, the feedback that we have got from candidates has been highly exceptional in terms of how they have been able to relate business context with analytics, and that is the single learning in this program. Here we also introduce candidates to the basics of statistics. Again, statistics is an area we begin right from scratch. We do not assume that you would already know statistics or you are good at it. So we begin right from scratch and build it upwards. In this business foundation module, we also begin the basics of tools such as R and SAS, so that for candidates who are not familiar with programming, they don't suddenly get overwhelmed by these tools. So that is where we begin. This is the module where we begin the basic foundation of these programming tools and technologies used by analytics as well. The next module goes into a deep dive in analytics. This is where you build on what you have learned in business foundation and you take a deep immersion into the world of analytics, into predictive modeling techniques, into machine learning techniques, into data analysis techniques, and so on. This is also where your competencies in SAS, R, and Tableau, these are the three tools that we cover, will get built further, because this is also the place where you will be using these tools to solve a lot of data sets and build your competencies here. The third module, which is the last and the finale module of the program, focuses on industry exposure, industry application of analytics. And this is where you get to learn from leading practicing experts in analytics across different domains when they come to the classroom and they solve problems. So there are, and that is, I will of course cover that in detail in one of the next slides in terms of what are the domains that get covered here. But let's say in the batch that went by, financial and risk analytics was taught by the team of the module in financial and risk analytics was taught by the team at American Express. Right now, the idea is not that they come and tell you in terms of what is happening in financial and risk analytics. The idea is not that. Rather, the idea is that they come with a problem to solve, right? And they walk with you through the solution so that you actually get hands-on exposure on solving a problem and not merely, gathering a lot of information about the world of financial risk analytics. And the same thing happens for web and social media analytics, for retail analytics, for marketing analytics, for insurance analytics, and so on. This is also the module where you would be pursuing your capstone project. Your capstone project is a 3 to 4 month long project as a part of the program requirement, and that again is a project that is focused on analytics, on solving real world problems using analytics. So I have a slide on that as well, and that will be covered in detail when I get. So that is in terms of how the learning objective sets the course apart from its peers. The next part that really gives us a lot of confidence are the industry endorsements that we have received in the program. So we have been really blessed by the industry in terms of the industry affiliation. So there are, we have some of the leading analytics companies as our corporate partners in delivering the program, in designing the curriculum, in helping the candidates, and roughly, if you look at the content of the program, you would see that about 40% of the program is completely taught by the industry. And we get senior practicing experts from companies such as American Express, Accenture, Mu Sigma, Cognizant, eValueServe, HP Analytics, and so on. Leading companies that are actually doing analytics day in and day out to come and tell you and to actually give you a practical understanding of problems to solve. In this context, I should also tell you that Great Lakes Institute of Management was actually one of the first business schools in India to set up a dedicated center of excellence in analytics. We call it the Analytics Center of Excellence, and actually that is where our journey in analytics began. And this happened about close to about 4.5 years back. And for the first couple of years, all that we did was work with organizations to solve, the talent problem in analytics. So essentially, our faculty was training a lot of their employees in analytics related areas. And that is how we build competence and we build the capability in analytics. And it is with that association that a lot of companies have come forward and joined us in our endeavor uh, to take PGPBA program as nationwide. So actually, what you see in PGPBA program today is basically derived from a lot of those initial trainings that have happened with a lot of these leading companies. That, of course, gets ratified by the fact that we have had some very eminent dignitaries who have participated in the program and interacted with the candidates. Either as a part of teaching the application-oriented modules or as a part of guest lectures that happen with regular frequency in the program. So, right from Mr. Lakshmi Narayan, who was the vice chairman of Cognizant, to the managing director of Accenture Consulting in India, or the vice president of Amex. So what the program does by getting professionals of such eminence is that it actually a opens up your horizon, and b it actually gives you a platform to interact with leading professionals in analytics. And in during the course of your program, that is 11 or 12 months that you are in the program, uh, you would get to meet professionals from at least 10 to 12 companies who come and teach or impart guest lectures at different points in the program, and that actually adds a lot of value to what you take away. The third bit is that we have designed the program to be application oriented. So I'm sure that by now, by looking at the amount of the close collaboration that the program is delivered in conjunction with the industry, you must be clear in terms of how this is not a merely academic program. This is not something where you're learning in a classroom in isolation with what is happening in the world over. Right, the program has been crafted and designed with great care and deliberation to make it as business ready and as business relevant as is possible. And that is one of the reasons why you will see that with every admission season that happens, with every batch that gets enrolled, the curriculum goes through a review and a change. So what you are going to learn uh, in batch 6 and batch 7 would not exactly be the same of what was taught in batch 4 and batch 5, because there would be some improvements that have come into the curriculum because the world of analytics itself is changing, right? So that is just one of the parameters through which we try and keep it highly industry focused and highly industry ready, in terms of what gets taught. And that is one of the reasons why we have those industry endorsements, or we have the ranking that we have, or we are able to attract the kind of industry guests who come and teach in the program because they see a lot of value. What they repeatedly the feedback that we have got from the industry is that what they see in this curriculum and what they experience in terms of competencies that the candidates have gained is that they are more business ready and more industry ready than anything else that there is in the market. And that is something that has that is actually one of the leading factors why we have got the kind of industry recognition and the kind of industry branding that we have. Coming back to the pedagogy of the program, which is application oriented, So throughout the program, the focus is to build candidates' capability in solving analytics problems, and not just and not just be an armchair analyst, as they say. So throughout the program, you would have to do a lot of case studies, a lot of assignments. You have to work on a lot of data sets, right? Which is basically going to just put you deep down in more and more analytics related problems and solutions, and you're actually solving those, not by sitting in the fringe, but actually being in the trenches and solving it as you would, right? So the factors that make our pedagogy application oriented include, we follow a case study led approach, which means most of the courses that get taught are taught through case studies and problem statements, and not through a pedantic approach. Evaluations are completely assignment based, right? So which means, what this does is that, for every course there is a set learning outcome that you will be able to see in your, once you have access to the learning management system as a student, right? So let's say if you are learning the basic statistics course, right? So there the faculty has defined certain set learning outcomes that, okay, by doing this course you should have gained these three or four or five things, right? Now the assignment is an application oriented hands-on assignment that measures you on those three or four or five things, right? So it is not trying to measure you on some theoretical knowledge, or some memorization of facts, but rather it is trying to measure you on, are you able to apply what you learned? So what that does is that, it acts like a mirror, to the candidate, because it is completely clear to you as a candidate in terms of, okay, this is what I have. So out of those five learning outcomes, I have gained three, and these are the two areas where I need to improve. And similarly, it acts like a filter for the faculty to know, in terms of, if these were the five learning outcomes, how well have you progressed in the course. There is a virtual lab. The virtual lab is basically a technology platform that helps you, or that gives you access to the tools, such as SAS and R, and you can practice them at your convenience at any point in time, wherever you are. So you don't need to be on campus per se to do that. You can just do it from wherever and at whatever time you want. Capstone project is something that I have briefly touched upon earlier, is where, you actually try and do a real world analytics problem, and you solve it under the guidance of either Great Lakes faculty or industry mentors. And that has been one of the highlights of the program. And in our exit feedback from our candidates, when we say that, what was that one single thing that was the biggest learning experience or learning curve for you in the program, more often than not it is the capstone project, because that is how practical the projects are. The last part in application oriented is that, the program, as I was saying earlier, is designed and delivered with the industry. So the final module of the program are all industry led modules, where we have leading practitioners from, leading analytics organizations come in, and not just tell you about the area of analytics, but actually solve problems. So these are all case studies that you are solving with them, working on data in the classroom, that actually builds your exposure in these areas of analytics. I have listed down here certain examples of capstone projects by our recent PGPBA students. This is only an indicative list. It only has 6 projects, but feel free to reach out to the admission office, and they'll be able to help you with more projects that our candidates have done. I obviously cannot mention, the company name, or where the industry mentor was, because of confidentiality issues. But look at the titles of the projects and the area where they are applied, and that will give you an idea of how relevant and how impactful these projects are. So, and the fact that, they cut across different domains. So there are projects in telecom, in energy, in healthcare, in finance, in public policy. For the lack of space, I have not mentioned the ones in web and social media, or marketing analytics, or risk analytics, or pricing analytics. So these are all areas where candidates have done fantastic work. And just looking at the titles of those projects will give you an idea in terms of how uh, these projects are actually modeled around real world problems, and they are not in isolation, or not a theoretical dissertation, so as to say. So, in terms of how is the course different, I have covered so far three aspects. The next aspect is in terms of how candidates get multi-domain exposure. So the last module of the program, that is the industry module of the program, is actually the module where we have senior professionals from the industry coming in and teaching candidates across different areas of analytics. And the module and the areas of the domains that we cover include web and social media, marketing and retail analytics, insurance analytics, finance analytics, and so on. One question that I do get from candidates is that, why does one need to go across all these domains? Why can't I just specialize in one domain? Let's say I want to specialize only in financial and risk analytics as a domain. So why can't I just do that? Why do I need to know about, or why do I need to, let's say, learn from absolute data in marketing analytics and Aviva in insurance analytics and so on, or another leading company in web and social media analytics? Why do I need to do that? Now, that was a conscious decision when we designed the program, and it was based on the feedback from the industry. Is that the fact of the matter is that you are never going to become an expert in any one of the domains by doing a 1 year program, right? Expertise comes from working in that domain over a certain number of years, right? So don't get the expectation that just because you do the PGPBA program or any other program for the matter, you are going to become an expert in financial risk analytics. That is not going to be the case. If you want to become an expert, you first need to learn analytics, which is what PGPBA or any other good program can help you do, right? But thereon, you need to work in that area and keep working to build that expertise, and give yourself time, 5, 6, 7, 8 years to actually gain that expertise, and for the industry to also acknowledge you as an expert. So first is get that expectation out, right? Now the benefit of going across multiple domains, and again, our exit feedback has only ratified and validated this, is that what candidates value the most in the program by going through these industry-led modules is the opportunity to learn from leading companies across domains, right? You would be amazed or probably even surprised to know that when American Express is solving a credit card risk problem uh, with a certain amount of data, vis-a-vis when let's say Absolute Data is trying to solve a pricing analytics problem, in a hospitality domain, the statistical problem that is being formulated is the same, but the approach in which it gets solved and the approach in which companies go around to implementing those decisions are completely different, primarily because the behavior of customers is different in these two domains, and primarily because the domains are different. One is a credit card financial risk analytics domain, and the other is a pricing analytics problem in a hospitality setting, right? So what you would appreciate as a candidate is that how do you look beyond a statistical problem and understand how business context is the most important thing in designing your analytic solutions and coming up with inferences or suggestions or outcomes based on data, on basically giving data driven decisions, right? So, and that completely changes from one company to another company because the business context changes, right? And that is something that is for the lack of another word, is worth $1 million, right? And that is one of the greatest learnings, or the most important or most pivotal learnings that candidates get in the program, and something that they really cherish. And I'm sure that's going to be the same for all of you who join the program as well. The next aspect that distinguishes us from our peers is the amount of flexibility that we give our candidates. At the outset, let me clarify one thing: flexibility does not mean compromising on rigor. That is not what I mean. Flexibility purely means in terms of flexibility in format, so that we are sensitive to your professional needs and requirements, to your career complexities, right? And we don't say that it is either my way or the highway, but we actually build the structure so that there are multiple interventions or multiple flexibility factors that you can you can exert to do the program. So some of those are listed here. One, of course, is that all classroom sessions get recorded, which means that even if for whatever reason, let's say for travel or so, if you are unable to attend a given session on a given day, you will still have access to that in your learning management system, and you will know exactly what happened in the classroom. And you can, of course, continue your learning on the learning management system using discussion forums and posting questions, reaching out to the faculty, and so on. A very common use case that we encounter is that during the course of the program itself, our candidates sometimes have to travel and are unable to attend courses, and that this is one of the saving factors for them, because even if they miss, let's say, a day or two, or a session or a residency, they are not completely in the dark, because they still get to know what happened in the classroom, get to attend the lectures as they happened, and continue their learning. The next bit is that evaluation is assignment based, which gives you the flexibility to, a, of course, to apply yourself. And secondly, let's say if you miss an assignment, or if you are not able to complete an evaluation on time, you will always be given another chance with the next batch, which may just be, 5 to 6 months down the line. So you will still have a chance to graduate in your same batch, without losing time. There are regular feedbacks and webinar sessions that we do, for Q&A and doubt clearing. So even if, let's say you learned something in the classroom and you went back and you tried to do it and it's not working for you, there are various avenues that are opened up for query resolution. It begins from discussion forums in the LMS, to reaching out to the faculty, to attending any of these Q&A webinar sessions that we organize with repeated periodicity. You can, of course, also schedule a time to come and meet the faculty in one of your non-residency days, and that is also something that is allowed. We, in fact, go a step further, and we give you the possibility to even re-attend a session or a course. Let's say, you want to re-attend a given module, or you want to re-attend a given course because you were traveling during that period, or you were sent on site for 6 months, and so on and so forth, right? We give you complete flexibility to come back and re-attend, whatever you want with any of our forthcoming batches, and there is no extra cost or penalization that we apply to the candidates for this. In fact, there are also times when, because of travel, candidates who are registered for our Chennai program actually attend classes in a Gurgaon program, and similarly, our Gurgaon candidates attend classes in the Chennai program. So all of that flexibility is there to ensure that there is as much possibility for you to learn within the structure that we can provide. But again, that does not mean that the rigor or the seriousness of the program will be compromised, which means you would still have to do all the assignments that are given, and you would still need to ensure that you are learning and exhibit that learning and demonstrate your competence, to graduate from the program. Uh, of course, rigor is something that I have been repeating, through this information session. And let me clarify: the intent is not to scare you or to intimidate you, but the intent is purely to clarify that, unfortunately, executive education in India is seen in a very light, in a very light vein, wherein candidates think that, it's just an executive education, which means, everybody will graduate. But that is not the case. You have to study. Ultimately, this is a program that is an exhaustive program. It's not a short-term certification program. It's an exhaustive program that is built in the industry as the equivalent of a master's or a PG in analytics. So you have to demonstrate that quality. And every candidate that graduates from Great Lakes PGPBA program is basically an ambassador of Great Lakes quality, and that is something that we are extremely protective about. Right. So when I say rigor, it merely means that you have to be dedicated, and you have to be sincere, and you have to be disciplined as a learner, to go through this learning journey. But we will give you all the support and all the flexibility that can be given to ensure that your learning doesn't stop, or even if it stops, it can again get started. In terms of the number of hours that you must dedicate on a on a weekly basis for the program, what we have seen is that, on an average, if you can dedicate 5 to 6 hours on a weekly basis in a sincere, concerted, disciplined, regular fashion, right, you will do very well in the program, right? But you have to find the time to dedicate that. And let me assure you that, once you get into the thick of things, the month you start learning, this field is so interesting and so exciting that you will not, if you're really passionate about it, you will not stop at 5 to 6 hours per week. You will take your learning to 10, 12, and even beyond, right? And that is when you really start performing excellently well. So that is the kind of time requirement. So what is more important is that you understand that this has to be on a regular basis. So it should not be that 3 weeks you don't learn anything. You don't do any kind of self learning that is required, and on the fourth week you suddenly try and dedicate 20 hours. A, that will never happen, and B, that doesn't help. Because there's only so much that you can learn in a given span of time. So that is in terms of the program flexibility that we have built into the program. The last part, of course, the alumni benefits. All PGPBA graduates are given full-fledged Great Lakes alumni status, just like any of our, full-time programs. The alumni status, of course, means that you have access to the alumni portal, the alumni app, and the job boards that come with it. You also have access to all institute events, faculty resources, conferences, alumni meetups, that we keep organizing across the world. Today, as we speak, Great Lakes alumni strength is over 3,500 across 30 odd countries, different industries and different sectors. Right, so you are a part of that family that grows and that is growing at a rapid pace and is doing exceedingly well. Great Lakes as an institute itself, for the uninitiated, has been growing every year in rankings and the credibility. In fact, in the latest rankings by Outlook, Business Today, Business India, CNBC TV 18, Great Lakes was ranked within the top 10 business schools for executive programs in India. And the fact that the PGPBA program itself is ranked in top three, graduating from this program does give you the advantage of brand Great Lakes for your own personal branding within the industry. Right. So now this is, of course, the mother of all questions in terms of what kind of a career support or career development will the program help me attain? So how does the PGPBA program help me in my career? Right. And I'm sure that many of you who have written in with your questions are around this. All right. So let me begin that in the interest of time. First and foremost is that we do not uh, we do not confer to or endorse usage of any falsified expectations such as placements assured or placements guaranteed. So in the event that you do come across any such statements from our side, please point it out to me, because that is not something we believe in. We are here to help candidates build a career, but at the same time we are not in the business of selling false promises. And that is something that even you as candidates should beware, because obviously, as is common sense, nothing, it is incredibly hard and nearly impossible to assure an outcome, for anyone. But having said that, let the caveats be out. PGPBA program is designed to assist you in career transitions. So the way we've given it a lot of thought and a lot of work in terms of what we do to help candidates grow in their career, because ultimately people are doing the program for some kind of a career growth and career transition, right? So, roughly about 60% of our candidates would pursue the program because they see immediate opportunities within their own organizations. But about 40% of our candidates are actually actively looking for opportunities, right? And we are cognizant of the fact, and we don't, while we don't falsify anything, while we don't want to be dishonest about anything, at the same time, we also don't want to be rigid and insensitive and say that, listen, you got to go figure out for yourself. That is not something we want to do. We are here to build a platform, and that is something that we have spent years in building. So let me explain in terms of what do we do. First and foremost, being a part of the program gives you access to opportunities from leading analytics companies, and I'll walk you through in terms of how does that happen in my next slide. But just for a fact check, in the last 5 to 6 months itself, our candidates have received opportunities from Genpact, from Mu Sigma, from Deloitte, Accenture, Value Labs, Absolute Data, and many other organizations as well. The fact that there are leading analytics organizations affiliated and endorsing the program, and that list is growing. Today, I mean, in one of my earlier slides, I'd shown you that list of companies, that have endorsed us. Uh, would you begin that when we began the program, we began with, I think, two or three companies, and today that list is so much longer, right? And that is only a natural consequence that the way we grow and the way more and more organizations begin to look at Great Lakes PGPBA program as a source for talent, that endorsement only increases. So that list, the fact that the list is increasing and increasing at a rapid pace, is something that's going to help you in your career. The last bit is, of course, the industry-led modules and industry-linked capstone projects and the guest lectures that keep happening also give you access to professionals from the industry. And the only reason, or one of the vested reasons why we have so much of industry participation in the program, is because all these companies are looking to hire. All these companies have a huge talent crunch in business roles and techno-commercial roles in analytics, and the reason why they have agreed to train our candidates is because by doing that, they are also on the lookout for talent that they can engage with. And that is something that we have very constantly seen in the program, and that is something that we greatly encourage as well. So there are two parts to our career support activities, right? So career support is a designed activity in Great Lakes PGPBA program. Let me be clear about that. And there are two broad parts to it. The first part is what we do for career development and planning. So this happens through a series of workshops. These workshops are all delivered by industry professionals, and it begins with a workshop on understanding the analytics landscape in terms of what are the companies, what are the different kinds of companies, what are the different kinds of roles within these companies, what are the different kinds of competencies that each of these roles would require, and how should you be building your competencies and building your skill sets given what your previous experience is and what the requirement is in the industry, so that you can actually bridge that gap. So that is the first workshop that we do in terms of career development and planning. The next set of workshops go into a little more tactical things, such as resume building for analytics. How do you build a killer analytics resume? What should you be saying? What should you not be saying? And so on. Then, of course, there is the whole gamut of interview preparation and case study preparation in terms of how should you prepare for analytics interviews. What are some of the commonly asked questions, and how do you answer them, and so on. So that is the ambit of career development and planning as a part of career support that we do in the program. The next part in career support is access to lateral opportunities. Now, because Great Lakes PGPBA program has been increasingly growing in industry recognition, we have had a lot of requests from leading analytics organizations on how they would want to, tap into the talent pool that we have, whether that be in terms of our existing candidates or our alumni. And how we open it up to them is that we invite job descriptions from these companies for lateral hires. And once we receive these applications or these job descriptions, beg your pardon, we list them on the LMS. So you, as a candidate, at any point in time, can see the different JDs that have been posted by companies, and you can go through the JDs, filter them out basis on what you want, and basis on where you are in your career, you can apply to the relevant JDs. And once you apply, we share these resumes with the recruiting companies, and the process happens between the company and the candidate, right? So that is what we do. The reason why we do it in a democratic fashion like this is because the program attracts candidates across the work experience range. So it is not as if all our candidates fall into a particular work experience bracket. uh, Admission by design includes diversity, and that's why we get candidates all the way from 4 years or 3 years of experience to about 28, 29 years of experience, and everybody will have a different career need, right? And when you are a working professional, we believe that you know best in terms of what your career wants, so you don't need to be guided or hand-holded like young college kids, but you should have more flexibility in terms of what you or where you want to apply. And once you apply, your resume is passed on, and the recruiting company gets in touch with you, and then it is between you and the company in terms of doing your interviews, doing your salary negotiations, and so on and so forth. So that is something that we have been very actively doing by design, and that is also something that has been giving us a lot of results. So that is how PGPBA, has helped and empowered candidates in career transitions. In fact, beyond all of this, there is also the fact that you are learning with a set of peers whose organizations, of course, are looking to hire analytics talent. So a lot of the time, we have seen how candidates help their own batchmates get analytics opportunities in terms of referrals and other things, or how one of the industry speakers would have mentioned that how they are looking to hire talent and candidates reach out to them, and how those industry outreach guest lectures actually lead to career outcomes. So there are a lot of avenues designed for career support and career development, and really the onus is on you as a candidate to make the most of all of these opportunities and to demonstrate that capability. Again, what is important is that uh, everybody needs to understand that you can't take anything for granted, right? Ultimately, you as a candidate needs to demonstrate that competencies and that skill sets. The problem in today's analytics landscape is not the dearth of opportunities, and let me tell you that very clearly. Analytics is an industry that is replete with career opportunities in India and globally, and is also definitely one of the fastest growing industries without doubt, but is also one of the better paying industries in terms of pay scales and stuff, and the kind of growth that you can have in a short span of time. But all of those opportunities are there. Ultimately, you have to skill yourself and you have to demonstrate that competence to capitalize on those opportunities. And that is what a program like PGPBA will help you do. In fact, in this context, we come out with an analytics career study every year. And in fact, in a week or so from now, we'll be launching the 2015 analytics career study, which I'm sure all of you will get by email. Just give us another 7 to 10 days, which will again kind of validate what I just told you in terms of the amount of opportunities and the kind of growth that analytics professionals are experiencing. So again, a fact check in terms of some of the examples where we have, or the kind of outcomes that we have seen. So there have been plenty of cases where candidates have transitioned from IT to analytics within the same organization, and that happens to a lot of our candidates who come from software services and consulting companies. And Capstone Project is actually one area that helps you do that, because one of the options in Capstone Project is that you can pursue a capstone project with your own organization. So essentially you can select a project within your existing organization and pursue a capstone project there under the guidance of Great Lakes faculty. And what that does is that builds visibility for you, within your own organization, and you suddenly get earmarked as someone who's getting trained in analytics, thereby making that transition easy. So there have been a lot of examples of how candidates have transitioned from IT or technology roles to analytics roles within the same organization. There have also been examples of how candidates have been recruited by their own PGPBA batchmates. Again, this was something that I was earlier mentioning about the importance of learning in an influential and impactful peer network, right? Because that network opens up opportunities for you, and that is something that we've seen a lot. We've also seen candidates converting opportunities from our own corporate partners, whether it be through the industry linked modules or through guest lectures that happen, how they reach out to these industry guests and convert some of those opportunities that are available. And of course, the fact that we give access to opportunities to candidates across leading analytics companies, and how candidates have converted those lateral opportunities as well. Some of the recent companies where PGPBA candidates and alumni have transitioned, these are of course some of the leading companies that you can see where our candidates have transitioned either while they were in the program or once they graduated as alumni. So one thing that you as a candidate should be mindful of is that don't keep unrealistic expectations that okay, a transition needs to happen in 3 months or 4 months, because the transition will happen when you are able to demonstrate that competence or capability that you have gained. For some people, it may take 3, 4 months. For some people it may take more than that, right? And you have to be patient and focused enough to keep persevering on that path. And because the area itself is replete with opportunities, I'm sure there will be something that you will convert, right? And what we have seen is that the candidates who are focused keep working on their capabilities and competence throughout, right? And that is something that finally gets them the results. Right. So transitions happen not just when you are studying in the program, but also as alumni, because as alumni, let me remind you that you have continued access to the LMS. So all of these opportunities are opportunities opened up not just to our existing candidates, but to our alumni as well. So even once you graduate from the program, you will continue to have access to the LMS, which means you will continue to have access to the learning content. That is number one, all the lectures, all the reading materials, all the case studies, everything, right? And secondly, you will continue to have access to opportunities, that are being shared by corporate partners and other companies in analytics, so that you can continue, to keep applying to different places and exploring opportunities. Another question that comes often my way is in terms of, what are the roles that can open up after PGPBA program. So first of all, of course, that's a very subjective question, because the role that you can explore is largely dependent on what you are doing currently, right, and how many years of experience you have. But typically, if I dial back to what I or to where I began, in terms of how PGPBA program focuses on business and techno-commercial roles and analytics. These roles per se begin with business analyst, as I had explained earlier. Some companies call it pricing analysts. There are other companies that will give a more fancier name of data scientists and so on. But typically, the value chain begins there, and then of course there are other roles such as engagement manager, manager analytics. You can always branch out into a more functional role of business development or sales or consulting within analytics. There are pricing analysts, there are recruitment analysts, there are marketing analytics manager, and so on. Increasingly, even if you are actually coming from a technology background and you gain analytics as a competence, even roles in product management open up for you, because product management is also a function now of analytics and technology, right? And what we have seen, as will be validated in the career study that we shall shortly release, but this is something that even you can check at your end, is that if you go to any of the analytics organizations and look at the open jobs that they would have listed on their website, you would see that close to 30% of these jobs are in analytics are for business roles. So what that means is that when you read the job description, you will see that the competence that they need involves you having knowledge of business, understanding of business, understanding of analytics, and some kind of industry exposure or industry affiliations. So that, again, if you kind of boil down that with the curriculum, you see that those are the three pillars on which the curriculum is built, and that is where all the business roles will start pointing to, right? And this is a quick check that you can do at your own end. I think I'm now approaching the end of my presentation. So I know I idly wanted to finish it in about 75 minutes. I've already exceeded it by 3 minutes. So just bear with me. Just give me a few more minutes of your concentration and your focus, and I'm sure we'll be able to close this soon. A question that comes to me in this context is in terms of how should I prepare for the course. So some of you, as I said, have already enrolled into the program, and some of you might have received offer letters and are deciding about the program. While the program is still a few months away, there are a few things that you can do, to begin your journey in analytics. First is start reading about the business of analytics, and there are a lot of online resources for that. But the best online resource that I can suggest is we have a weekly newsletter that we release, that goes to over 10,000 plus subscribers, and you can easily subscribe for it from our website itself, or you can write into the admission team and they will add you to the subscription list. What that does is that can actually become a weekly dose of analytics knowledge and analytics current affairs from across the world, in terms of right from how Uber is using, or Uber today is a data science driven organization more than anything else, to leading companies such as Amazon or Microsoft or even Ford for that matter. How analytics pervades across industries and sectors, and how companies are using it world over. So start generating or start cultivating a genuine interest in the business of analytics, because that is something that will help you a lot. And as I said, that can begin by subscribing to our newsletter. There are also other analytics blogs in India, such as Analytics India Magazine, Analytics Vidya, that you can refer. They also have good content around analytics. You can also begin by brushing up basics of statistics. So don't fret if you're not able to understand what is being mentioned, because as I said, we will begin from basics, the very basics of statistics. But however, there are a lot of resources online that will help you brush up the basics, and don't try to get into too much depth and too much detail that confuses you. But just start getting familiar with the area, especially if it's been a while since you have done anything academic in nature. In fact, to help all the candidates, we are putting together a refresher course in statistics, and I think this should be available to all of you in another 2 to 3 weeks from now, and we will share that with all of you, and that will actually give you a guided learning path to the basics of statistics, which will of course help you as well. In terms of class profile, who are the kind of candidates that pursue this program? As I said, our average batch experience is over 8 years. We broadly recruit candidates in three different brackets: 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and about 10 years. We have candidates all the way up to 28 to 29 years of experience, because every batch we will have CXO, CEOs, directors, senior directors who also pursue the program. So the way the admission office or the program director's office actually they decide on the composition of the batch is that they keep filters for diversity, to ensure that every batch that comes into the PGPBA program is diverse in experience, in work profile, in the kind of job they have done, in the kind of education background, and so on, so that you as a candidate get to experience the most and learn the most from your peer network. Think of it. If you are a software professional with 6 years of experience, and let's say all the other candidates in your class are also software professionals, just from different companies with the similar amount of work experience that you have, that would really limit your learning in the program. And that is why, as a criteria for admission, we have kept filters. And as the admission goes on, it becomes harder to enroll into the program, precisely because of these filters. Because if one of the filters gets filled, then we stop taking candidates from that filter and we start recruiting from other filters, right? So that is the way we manage diversity, and we are focused on it. um, so your peer network in the program will be candidates across different experience brackets, of course from different parts of the country, and even international candidates we have. In Chennai we get candidates from Singapore, from Middle East, even the current batch even has candidates from Africa, and so on, right? So that so the your peer network will come from different parts of the country, different experience brackets, different educational backgrounds, different functional roles. So typically close to 40 odd percent of our candidates would be from technology, whereas the others would be from analytics, consulting, manufacturing, business development, services, HR, and so on. Also mentioned are some of these are this is of course a very indicative list, but we just try to put together some of the companies from where our current candidates belong to. The course schedule is something that candidates do keep asking. So as you know, as all of you are aware, the program happens in two campuses: the Chennai campus and the Gurgaon campus. In the Chennai campus, the program will commence from the 10th of July. The batch size will be, as I had earlier mentioned, will be roughly about 60 plus minus 10% here and there. The format that we follow in Chennai is that you have to attend classroom residencies once in 2 months for 5 days. These 5 days will be continuous days that will always include weekends, and we also try and include public holidays that fall somewhere close by, so that it can minimize the number of leaves you want to take. I think by now the schedules have already been published. So if you're unaware of the schedule, just reach out to the admission office and they will help you with the schedule for either of the campuses. Now, in Gurgaon campus, the program commences from the 26th of June. The batch size there will be roughly about 50, and the format that we follow there is about weekend classes every month. So, in Gurgaon campus, you'll essentially have to come for classroom residency every month, whereas in Chennai campus, you'll have to come once in 2 months. The reason why we follow two different schedules across both campuses is that the Chennai campus, as I was saying, attracts students from across the country. So in Chennai campus, roughly only about 30% of our candidates are actually from Chennai. The remaining 70% are from other cities such as Bombay, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Singapore, Dubai, and so on. Calcutta, and so on. So the reason why we do that is because it is convenient for them to travel 6 times a year as compared to 12 times a year. And secondly, that is the reason why our Chennai program is also residential, because all of these candidates, there's a lot of group work and a lot of collaborative work that happens, and hence it is required that all of you stay together so that you have access to your team members while doing that work. And being a part of the Chennai campus in the program, of course, also gives you access to the library, to other resources that are there. And what we have heard and read from candidates is that that experience of going back to campus is just one of the most cherishable items that the students have experienced. In terms of Gurgaon campus, this is not a residential program. So in Gurgaon campus, most of our candidates are from NCR and in and around NCR. So that's why this is, you can, this is more of one weekend every month. Right. So that brings me to the end of my scheduled webinar. I have exceeded my time. So, first of all, my sincere apologies for taking more of your Sunday morning time. But thank you so much for listening so very patiently and intently to me. As I can see, there are a lot of questions that have come my way, and I'm hopeful that some of these have been answered by Ravi. But for the ones that have not been answered, don't worry about it. I'm sure that after going through the presentation, some of those questions have been answered. Right? There are a few questions that are blinking on my screen in terms of how long is the LMS access provided. The LMS access, Anubhav, is provided until 1 year after graduation, free of cost, and after that there is a very nominal subsidized charge that we take from candidates if you want to continue your access, and you are free to stop it whenever you want. In terms of financing options for the course, I'm sure for candidates who have received an offer letter, you would have seen that there is we follow a monthly kind of a payment, so you don't need to pay everything upfront. You can pay the program fee across the first 4 months of the program. We also have options for financial assistance. So, if, in case you want to reach out to our partner lending institutions, which are HDFC and Avance, we'll help you do that. So you can just write to the admission office, and they will put you in touch with these lending partners who can provide you education loans for pursuing this program. And a lot of our candidates actually do exercise that option. Once again, there are candidates who are asking if this session is recorded. I'll just like to reiterate the session is being recorded and will be shared with all of you, shortly. On that note, I would now like to take leave of you. For the questions that have been unanswered, we shall reach back to you individually, either through a call or email, and answer every single of your questions that we have not been able to answer right now. On this slide, of course, you can see my email ID as well as the admission officer's email ID. So if you have any queries, feel free to either reach out to me or to reach out to the admission office, and we will definitely try and sort out your queries. So on that note, thank you again for all of your for your time and your attention and your interest. Truly do appreciate that. Thank you once again, and I hope this session was meaningful for you. Um, if in case of any queries, feel free to reach out. Have a wonderful Sunday and have a wonderful weekend, whatever is left of it. Thank you so much, and I hope to see many of you on campus very soon. Thank you. All the best.